Hey everyone, welcome to this video. In this video, we'll look at f-strings in Python. Now, what are f-strings? F-strings is a way to format strings in Python. Now, what's the meaning of formatting strings? So basically, when we have a string and we want to impute some values from a variable inside the string, we use this feature called f-string, right? Let's take some example to understand how to use f-strings in Python and what they are. So let's take a variable called name and the values, let's say John. So there's a person called John and his age is 20. So we store the value of his age in a variable called age. And you want to print something like John is 20 years old. This is what you want to print, right? So what we'll do? We'll do print name. Why name? Because name John is there in the variable called name, comma. We'll use the feature wherein in the print function we can print multiple values or variables, comma separated, right? Is, and then we want to print 20. 20 is there in age. So age, comma, years old, full stop. So what will happen? Name John will be printed, then a space is space 20, that's the value of age, space years old, right? Why? Because this is how print function works. Comma separated values are printed as space separated in the output. Let's check it out. Go to the menu, run, and the file name is fstring underscore Python. That's what I have created. So it says John is 20 years old, right? Basically, this is what you wanted. So this is how it works. Now let's say we have a couple of more variables. Let's say language equal to Python. And let's say hours equal to 3. Okay. So now what I have to print is John is 20 years old. He studies Python 3 hours a day. Okay, something like that. So we can modify this print function to basically print this. Now, after years old, he studies can be continued, right? So full stop, he studies. And then we have to print Python. Python is stored in variable language. So what we'll do, comma, language, comma, then 3 hours a day, hours, comma, hours a day, full stop. Makes sense? So John is age 20 years old. He studies language which is Python, hours 3 hours a day. Now, if I print this, if I run this program, now Shift F10 will work. So John is 20 years old. He studies Python 3 hours a day. Again, if we have more variables, let's say it's a huge message or a huge paragraph, we need to have a lot of, let's say 5 to 10 variables needs to be imputed in the middle. We have to keep on doing this, which is a bit hectic. What do you think? Right? It's not a good idea to keep on doing this. It's pretty clumsy. It's not very straightforward, right? So that's where the feature of fstring in Python comes into picture, wherein we can do this. So what is fstring? So using fstring, what we can do is we can print something like this. So wherever there is a variable, right? Wherever there is a variable, so think it to be a fill in the blanks kind of a thing. So we use curly brackets at that place and we put the variable inside it. So name is age, years old. He studies language, hours, day. Now if you see here, it's a single string. We have not separated, right? Here we have different strings and different variables in the print function, comma separated. Here it's a single string written with the way you write English, right? In real life. Instead of using name directly, John directly, age 20 directly, we are using variables, and variables are used as curly brackets. All right. Another thing to note here is we have to use something called f in front of this string to tell Python that, hey, whatever I'm using in the curly brackets needs to be imputed, needs to be fetched the value of, right? These are variables, and we need to fetch the values of these variables. This is what f string syntax looks like. Again, if you see it carefully, it's a single string, right? And I want to print something. John is 20 years old. He studies Python 3 hours a day. And wherever there is a use of a variable, I just use the variable name inside a curly bracket, pair of curly brackets. It's very concise, right? And you can embed variables directly into the string, right? So you can decide yourself if this feels simpler or this feels simpler, right? All right. I feel this is convenient. Let's print this. So this also will be printed and this also will be printed. Let's compare both of them together and how it looks. Both should be same. So run the program, and it says John is 20 years old. He studies Python 3 hours a day. This is basically the first print function, and the second one is using the f string. So f string works the way we wanted it to work, right? So let's take more examples on this. So let's say we have a variable called num1. It has some value 100, num2, or let's take three subjects. Subject 1 equal to 78, subject 2 equal to 87, and subject 3 equal to 83. Now what we have to print is, we have to print, let's say it's marks for John itself. So John scored. So we'll add all three and total marks, whatever total he got, right? So what we can do, you can create a variable called total, and we can do sub1 plus sub2 plus sub3 and use that total variable here, right? Total marks, right? But instead of that, what we can do is we can simply say like this: print f necessary, and then curly the pair of quotes for the string, and say name, which is John, scored. Now we have not done sub1 plus sub2 plus sub3 here, right? In a variable, we could directly do that addition or write that expression directly into this curly bracket, like sub1 plus sub2 plus sub3 here. Marks in total, for example. So what it will do is, how it will work is, basically it will impute the value of name directly from the variable. And here what it does, it fetches the value of sub1, fetches the value of sub2, so fetches the value of sub3, adds these three together, and then gives us the result here. Okay, so let's try to run that. I'll comment this and I'll comment this as well, so that we get only the line that we want to see, which is this, right? Shift F10. John scored 248 marks in total. We did not create a new variable. We simply added the expression inside the curly bracket, which also works. So we can conveniently use the variable or an expression inside the curly bracket to fetch the values or calculate the values in a very concise manner using f strings. Now, let's say you do this total equal to sub1, or let's say percent, right? Percent equal to sub1 plus sub2 plus sub3. And then if you divide by 3, you'll get the percent, right? If you divide by 3 into 100, you can do, but the 0 will cancel, right? So, and this I will again comment. And you want to print the percent of John. So I do this name, what? Percent. Full stop. Right? Let's see. Let's run this. What happened? See the output. Pause the video and think why this has happened. Now, Were you able to understand why this has happened? We have used the variable names inside the curly brackets, right? But why it is happening? It is not giving error as well, right? If you have thought of. The answer is we have not written the f in front of the string, right? So only writing this variables inside the curly brackets will not help us inside the string. You have to use the f in front of it as well, right? So now if you run this, John got 82.66 whatever percent, right? Now it fetches the values. So remember, you have to use the curly brackets to fetch a variable and use f in front of the start of the string, right, before the quotes, right? And this kind of behavior can be used inside the string only, right? That's why it's called f string, right? That's all for this video.